Let's talk about getting your emotional life cleaned up. My sweet sister-in-law has a term that she uses that has really stuck with me, and it's being emotionally clean. I'll use that in a sentence. It seems like you're in a clean place with this stuff with your friend, for example. And ever since she first said that to me, I've really been thinking about my emotional life. Is it clean? And I want to handle my emotional business cleanly. And honestly, I have not always been good at this at all. In fact, for many years, I handled my emotional business in a very messy way. And sometimes I'd create more emotional messes that needed to be cleaned up. Many times my way of dealing with emotional issues was to ignore them. And just like in your home, your house or your apartment, your office, your car, if you just keep letting things pile up, if you have a mess and you don't deal with it, it's not going to get better. And it's probably not even going to stay the same. It's probably going to get worse. So it's important to clean up the mess. We're not inspired to clean up our emotional messes if we just look at the society and the culture around us, because everything around us is geared towards emotional messiness. People want to text instead of talk. We want to post things on social media that target someone else, or we want to vent on social media. Gossip. And listen, I feel like I can say that because I am one of the most guilty people. A lot of times in the past, I would prefer to text someone rather than deal with what needed to be dealt with. I would rather make a mean comment on social media that somebody would maybe be able to interpret that it was about them. And I've been a terrible gossiper in the past. And even though I might not repeat things, I love to listen, and that's just as bad. But I don't want to digress into gossip. But when we take to these different methodologies to avoid dealing with our emotional messes, then we're able to hide. Again, we're hiding the mess. It would be as if, like you might have a junk drawer or even a junk room. Some people have a junk room in their house and they just sort of throw everything in the room and shut the door. Well, that's what we're doing when we handle our emotional business on social media or through texting or through another person. What we're doing is we're just trying to shut the door on it. And even more so, and I'm guilty of this, I'll take to social media because I want people to, for example, I remember one time I made a post. I had seen an ex-boyfriend out with his new girlfriend, and it hurt my feelings, and I felt sad. And so I posted something like, oh, when you see your ex-boyfriend smiling at her the way he used to smile at you. And of course, what was I doing that for? I wanted attention. So, my troops came to my defense. Oh, girl, you're the best. He's missing out. He must have traded down, just saying all these things. And I later deleted the post because I felt like it wasn't clean. And then we call that social proof. See, I posted it and look how many people agreed with me. I was on a Facebook group a couple weeks ago, and there was a young woman who posted a picture of herself in the Facebook group. And she is on the overweight side, and she had just gotten her hair cut really, really short. And in the caption of her photo, she said, I'm going for that Audrey Hepburn gamine look. If you ever saw Audrey Hepburn, like in Roman Holiday, for example, when she had her hair short and she had these little short bangs. Well, Audrey Hepburn had an incredible bone structure. She could carry that off. And so the picture of the young woman, she was, it was a selfie, and she had these, like, I'm talking super short bangs, and they were sort of like asymmetrical in a way. I wanted to type, "Don't worry, it'll grow back." I didn't. But as I looked through everyone else's comments, it was all, "Oh, you look beautiful. You look just like Audrey. Oh, it's so perfect." And I thought, like, okay, well, first of all, that's really nice that they did that. But that's what we would call social proof. And so she might look at those comments, like if she posted it thinking, "I'm not really sure that this looks good," and then 50 women said, "It looks great," but yet it might not be the most flattering hairstyle. But that's what we call social proof. And many times we take to social media with a wrong assumption or an incorrect judgment about something, and we get affirmed for that, and we think, well, then I'm right. So when I make a snarky or mean comment about something or someone, then I get affirmed that, yes, I'm right in my thinking. That creates emotional messes. Now, all of this being said, well, why should you even care? I mean, who cares? In your house, you might say, who cares if I have a junk drawer? Yeah, I have a junk drawer. By the way, I don't have a junk drawer anymore. I got rid of my junk drawer, and I'll tell you why. That junk drawer drove me nuts. Every time I would open it, like, where are the batteries? Where are the birthday candles? Where is the such and such? And it was just such a nightmare to find anything. And I would feel frustrated and aggravated every time I would open that junk drawer, and heaven forbid if anyone was at my house and they opened the junk drawer. So I got rid of my junk drawer. The question is, how do you want to feel? When you have things going on in your life that are making you feel angry or hurt, you're holding on to them. Maybe it's something that happened 25 years ago and you're still upset about it. Maybe it's something that happened 5 minutes ago and it irritated you or it hurt your feelings. That is potentially an emotional mess. And the question you have to ask is, how do you want to feel? Now, some people, and we all say, "Oh, I'm not like this," but some people really enjoy being upset. They enjoy the upset. They want to be angry. They kind of like being hurt because it gives them a sense of significance. So when they have a drama or they're a victim about something, then everyone else will come to their rally. So if I want to see myself as a victim and I say, I had the worst day, everyone was so mean to me, and then of course on social media, I'm going to get that social proof. People, "Oh no, you're the best. We love you. You're so wonderful." And then I get what I wanted, which is I want to feel like I matter. And everybody wants to feel like they matter. And so there are people who enjoy feeling upset. They want a mess. And then they don't want to clean it up because that feels uncomfortable. Just like most people, okay, now I'm odd in this way because I actually will wake up in the morning and say I feel like organizing something. But the majority of us don't wake up in the morning and say, "I really feel like cleaning out that junk room today." And it's even more true. Nobody wakes up and says, "I feel like having that difficult conversation today with my mom," or "I think I'm going to deal with this emotional baggage that I've been carrying around for 10 years. So it's tough, but the question is, how do you want to feel? Do you want to constantly be chewing on that in your mind? Because here's the thing, one thing that my therapist told me, she said, your mental energy and your emotional energy is like your bank account. It's limited. So whenever I spend time thinking about what so-and-so said to me 12 years ago that hurt my feelings and they owe me an apology, and I can think about that all I want to. But any little bit of energy or time or thought that I allow to go into that is energy and time and thought that I can't use for something else. Okay, so I can't use it to think about a blog post I could write. I can't use it to think about how could I help someone else. I can't use it to think about what should I do with all the junk in the junk room. So how do you want to feel? Now, I've decided for myself that I want to feel a sense of peace. I'm in my 40s. I just want to have some peace in my life. And I want to feel like I have control over my emotions, and I want to feel clean and clear. Listen, ladies, if you haven't had this experience, when you get into your 40s, you're going to get some brain fog. There are going to be days where it's going to be all you can do to remember where your car keys are. And I don't want to be cluttered up in my life. That's why I don't want to have a junk drawer. I don't want clutter. I don't want 15 matchbooks from places that the matches are soggy, because whatever. I don't want a takeout menu from everywhere in town. I don't want 137 refrigerator magnets. I don't want that clutter. I want things to be clean. I want them to be simple. I want my life to be simpler. And that's where handling my emotional business in a clean way has benefited me. And so I'm gonna show you how to do that. I have 4 steps that I'm gonna share with you on how to clean up emotionally and handle things in a clean way. First thing, you really have to get clear about what you're feeling. Now, that sounds like it would be easy, and maybe for some of you it would be. I spent a long time not really knowing what I was feeling about anything because I had shut down emotionally to the point where if I was sad, I would say, "Oh, I'm not sad, I'm fine, I'll be fine." Or, "Oh, I'm not sad, I'm just tired." And then I would work a bunch to distract myself from whatever I was feeling that was making me sad. And then I would work, and then I really would be tired. So then I would be right when I would say, "Oh, I'm tired." And the problem when you shut down your negative emotions is you frequently shut down your positive ones too. And I had gotten to the point where I just really didn't feel a whole lot of anything. And I will tell you that that is not a fun way to live. And you can't pick and choose. Life is not about being, yay, everything's great all the time, or probably even 80% of the time. You're going to have positive feelings and negative feelings. But to me, I want to be able to maintain that feeling of emotional control and peacefulness even through those negative emotions. So you have to get clear on what you're feeling. And that means you have to actually put a label on the feeling. And before you don't have to worry, don't put it on social media, okay? You don't even have to tell anyone, but just for yourself. What I started doing was just between me and myself is I would say, "I'm sad." And then I wouldn't try to talk myself out of it. "I'm sad, but I shouldn't be." I would just say, "I'm sad. I feel sad. And it's okay." Or, "I feel hurt. I feel lonely. I feel angry. I feel excited." For some of you, maybe that's going to be an easy process. For me, it was hard because like I said, I was so shut down and numb, I just couldn't recognize my feelings. Now, once I started to do that, I started to open back up pretty quickly, and that to me has been a real blessing. But some examples would be, and I find journaling to be so valuable because that's where I can, in a safe place, really write down and work through my feelings. I can go back and read it later. But as an example, "I don't feel like I can trust you." Okay, that's not a feeling. "I feel sad." That's a feeling. "I feel hurt." "I feel disappointed." Okay, those are feelings. And so the first thing you have to do if you want to handle things in an emotionally clean way is you have to figure out what it is that you're feeling, okay? So the second step is Now you have to take part, or you have to take responsibility for your part for those feelings. In 12-step programs, this is normally what people do in the 4th step. They usually have fun because at first they're writing down all the resentments they have against other people. I'm mad at this person because they did this to me. And, that part can be really fun. And then their sponsor will have them go back through and say, okay, now what did you do to contribute to this situation? And many times you were wronged and you did not do anything to contribute to the situation. Let's say if you experienced abuse as a child, you did not do anything to contribute to that. However, if you're an adult and you have not dealt with what you've been through, then you're contributing to your present pain. You're contributing to your not being able to heal. So with every experience we're having, we play a role with that. If you're in an abusive relationship, I'm not saying that you're doing something to cause the abuse, but it's possible that your part is you're staying. You're staying in the situation. We all are responsible for something in our feelings. And for me, with my experience, many times my part in my feeling bad has been that because I was so numbed out and I didn't know what I was feeling, I couldn't stand up for myself. I didn't know what to say. And, and I'm just going to tell you that left me with relationships that were difficult to maintain because I didn't feel connected to anybody and I wouldn't communicate. So you have to identify what it is that you're doing to contribute to your own situation. In the same way, for example, if you're having financial trouble, well, what are you doing to contribute to the situation? Do you need to spend less? Do you need to make some different decisions? Again, I'm not one of these believers, like some people say with the law of attraction. I think you need to see, what did you do to attract this into your life? I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about we all play a part in whatever emotional mess we have. I mean, if my house is a mess, I created it or I allowed it. If your kids are trashing your house, yeah, maybe you didn't trash the house, but you allowed that to happen, at the very least by not teaching your kids or not disciplining them. So we all play a role. So step number 3 is you have this mess. And it's just like your junk drawer or your junk room in your house. You have to make a decision. Do I want to leave it and be at peace with it? Or do I want to change it? If you decide that, hey, and listen, if you're sitting here going, hey, I have a junk room and I like it. I love that junk room and I'm not going to change it because I'm okay with it. One of my girlfriends kind of laughs that she has a messy office and she has a home office, and she laughs that it's an absolute disaster, and she said it would drive you crazy if you ever saw it. And she said, but I like it, I know where everything is, and it doesn't bother me. Great. So she's at peace with it. If you're at peace with the situation, that means that you're at a point where you say, okay, I'm all right with it, and I'm not going to try to change it. And so let's say, for example, if your situation is you're having drama with your mom, and let's say she always makes fun of you at family gatherings. Well, your part in that, by the way, is you're letting her do it. You're not standing up to her. So in step 3, when we say you're either going to choose to allow that to continue, or you're going to do something about it. If you choose, I'm going to let it continue, I'm okay with it. So she's going to make fun of me at family get-togethers, and I'm going to be peaceful and be like, totally fine, doesn't bother me, it's cool. Which, by the way, probably is only going to work if your mom has perhaps a form of dementia, or if you're dealing with a child who doesn't know any better. And you can sit and say, well, the person doesn't really know any better, and so it really just kind of rolls right off of you. I'm going to say that's going to be 1% of the time. For most of us, when we have that thing going on, we're not okay with it. And so again, your decision is you better figure out, I have peace, I'm going to feel okay about this, or I'm going to change it. So let's say and by the way, that's pretty emotionally clean, and that means you're going to let it go. You're not going to tell anybody. When I say you've decided you're going to be at peace with it, that means you're not tweeting about your crazy mom. You're not calling your best friend. You wouldn't believe what she said to me now. You're not behind her back with your other siblings at the family reunion going, if she says one more thing, because you're at peace with it. You're fine with it. Okay, but I'm telling you, 99% of the time, that's not how we are. We want the situation to change. And it's the equivalent of, I want the junk room to just clean up by itself. That's not going to happen. There's no clutter fairy. You're not going to wake up in the morning and the house is clean unless you clean it. And it's the same with our emotional business. We have to clean it up. And so now we're going to deal with step 4, which is, how do you clean up this emotional mess? And I'm going to tell you, it's not easy, because you have to have a conversation with the person. Not texting, not email, not a social media snark fest where you're back and forth on social media. You don't go to someone else with it. And a lot of times I would do that under the guise of, I need advice, or we need to pray for this person. And the truth is that I just wanted to talk about the situation and be supported. If you want to handle that, that's not emotionally clean. That's messy, because you're going to another person. And I think, you get to a certain age, you've been on all sides of this, where you've had someone who was upset with you and they went to somebody else and you heard about it and you're like, why didn't they just tell me? Why'd they go tell everyone else? Like, if you're mad at me, tell me. And they wouldn't. And it doesn't feel good. So if you want to handle things emotionally cleanly and get them out of your life and not have to be consumed with them anymore, you're going to have a conversation with the person. Now, when you have a conversation with someone, you have to be able to tell your truth in a loving way without expecting a particular outcome. So if your expectation is, I'm going to tell them how hurt I am and I expect them to apologize, that's not clean. That's having an expectation. Let me give an example. My dad and I have had some ups and downs in our relationship, and I love my dad, and I know he loves me. And I tried to bring up something that was bothering me a couple of years ago, and looking back, I can see where I probably didn't do it in a great way. I was trying, but it was a fail. And he was upset, and I was upset, and then we were both more upset after that conversation. And I really felt like I'm done. I'm done. But I knew I wasn't done because it was bothering me. And it took me about a year to really clean up my side of the street and to understand what he might be feeling. And I put myself in his shoes and thought, well, why might his feelings be hurt? And I really started to understand, and it certainly was never my intention to hurt my dad's feelings, just like it was never his intention to hurt mine. And as I really started to put myself in his position, I started to understand, okay, this is why he's he's hurt and he's angry and he's upset and he's lashing out because he's hurt. And I also had to make peace with the fact, this is how my dad is and he's not going to change. And there are some things about me that this is how I am, and I'm not going to change or I'm not willing to change in some of these areas. And I got to a place where I had peace about it. And he actually had, we were having a phone conversation, and he brought up some of these conversations. And at first I got like, oh my gosh, we're gonna talk about feelings, and it's scary. And then I thought, no, you know what? I'm just going to speak honestly. I had done a lot of work up to that point, and I thought I was at a place where I knew I could say, here's what I think, here's what I feel, and I knew it would be okay, regardless of what his response was. And so I listened to what he had to say, and I said, well, I'd like to give you my perspective on this. And I said, from my viewpoint, here's how I see it. But then I said, but you know what, Dad, I can see where you would feel this way, and I see where you're coming from, and I see where when I did this, this, and this, I see where that hurt your feelings or it upset you. And I said, please forgive me for that, because I'm not great at handling things like this all the time. And that conversation on the phone, when we hung up, all through the phone call, I thought, I just know when I hang up the phone, I'm just going to burst into tears. But when I hung up the phone, I just felt like a weight had been lifted off of me, because I spoke my truth. And I was able to just say, Dad, I love you. This is what happened from my perspective. This is why I was upset. This is why I did what I did. Please forgive me for doing this, this, and this. And I hung up the phone, and I just had such a feeling of peace. And from that day until now, that really, I feel that since I was able to clean out my side of the street and give him some information, that's one of the things he said. He said, thank you for telling me what you told me. I didn't realize these things. That gives me something to think about. People can't help clean up a mess if you don't tell them anything. And so after that phone conversation, the next time we talked, we were really able to rebuild things. And I feel like my dad and I are in a really great place right now. That's been a huge blessing for me. I don't want to have a strained relationship with my dad. I'm blessed that I still have my dad in my life. Many of my friends are losing their parents, and my dad is healthy and spry, and we have a good relationship, and I'm grateful for that. And so by handling that business with him in a clean way, even if he would have said, I don't understand what you're saying, and I think you're nuts, and I don't understand why you were upset. Even if he had responded like that, I knew I said what I needed to say. And I felt good. I was truthful. I was loving. I did not blame him for anything. And it really laid the groundwork for a bridge and patched up some wounds in our relationship. That's what I mean by handling things in a clean way emotionally. And listen, is it easy? No, it's not easy. And there's always that what if. What if I say something to this person and they laugh at me? I said earlier, don't handle your business with a text or an email. There are times where an email might be appropriate. I had a friend that we suffered a loss of our friendship. And when I looked back on it, I felt like we were both responsible, but I was again, I said, I need to look at my part of this. And our relationship was so fractured, we were not really speaking. And I thought, okay, well, let me just send her an email, and she may not want to respond. And honestly, another fear I had was she might forward this to other people and make fun of it. She might print it out and laugh with her friends about it. She could put it on social media. And I mean, that scared me. But in the letter, in the email, I just said, this has been bothering me for some time. And I didn't talk about what she did. I just said, listen, I handled this wrong. And I should not have done this, this, and this. And that's why our friendship, I think, ended. And, please forgive me. And I apologize. I was wrong. And even had said to her, look, if you don't ever want to discuss this, we don't have to. If you don't even acknowledge this email, it's okay. I just needed to apologize and ask for your forgiveness. But if you don't forgive me, then I understand. That was hard for me. I mean, I was really scared. But when I sent the email, I just had that deep sense of, even if she sends this to everyone on the planet and laughs and says, look at what this idiot sent me, I just thought, you know what though? I feel clean about it because I took responsibility. I have no expectation of a response. And she actually did respond, and I was nervous when I saw that reply in the email inbox. I thought, oh my gosh, I mean, it could be anything. And she was very gracious and said, I'm sorry for what I did, and I didn't realize this had still been bothering you, and maybe we could have lunch. And we've built some things back up again. And so there are times where handling things maybe by an email could be appropriate. It gives the person a chance to process what you're saying, and it gives them the freedom to not respond if they don't want to, or if you feel that they are not open to talking with you. And we have to respect that sometimes. If you've hurt somebody and they would be unable to even look at you, because I think maybe we've all been in that situation, you can still offer the apology and clean up your side of the street. And again, you have no control. The person may come back and say, yeah, it was all your fault. Okay, well, yikes. But so you don't want to do this until you are completely prepared for no matter what their response is. And if they don't respond, that you're okay with it. But that's what being emotionally clean is about. Is it easy? No. Just like if you have a horrible mess somewhere in your house, is it easy to clean it up? No. And then keeping it clean. There's the maintenance aspect. That means every time something comes up, you're going to have to address it and deal with it. But I can tell you from my personal experience that being in that emotionally clean space is so valuable. And the peace of mind, and I'm not carrying around resentment, and I'm not constantly playing in my head the list of things that people have done to wrong me. I can let those things go. And that, there's plenty of things in life to be upset about. Every day, something's going to happen to upset us. And so if we can let go of as much of that clutter as we can and operate as cleanly as we can, then that helps us live that wonderful life that we want to lead. So I encourage you to start to clean up your emotional mess.